Portal window's closed, but there's still stuff going on. And I haven't even talked to you since, for example, Dominic Williams, the TCU defensive tackle, committed to not LSU, but committed to Oklahoma, which prompted a lot of ire from Baton Rouge. But this is a true freshman All-American from last year. 6'2", 320, started every game for TCU, and he's headed to Oklahoma. And Oklahoma needed it for two reasons. Number one, they just need big bodies on the interior. Number two, you've got to make sure folks understand. Forget about outsiders. You got to make sure people in your building and around your program understand, yeah, we're going to the SEC. We're going to blend in the SEC. We're going to do things. We're going to be very aggressive. We're going to go about our business the way they go about business in the SEC. And Brent Venables hasn't shied away from that. Oklahoma hasn't shied away from that. And good on them, because this is a really good addition for them. And it was competitive. It was really competitive. Oregon, not only did they land Peyton Woodyard, who's the DB from Alabama, but Derek Harmon, who was the defensive tackle from Michigan State. And Michigan State's it's bled some players here. They landed both of them. Oregon, by the way, now with the number 2 transfer portal class in the country after these pickups, Harmon was the top defensive tackle in the portal. And I have talked for, it feels like forever now, about the depth and versatility that Oregon is building on their defensive front, which is unique, and no one else on the West Coast does it to the degree they're doing it. And you've got to do it, because when you talk about going to the playoff or just playing in the Big Ten, and you get into your 15th or 16th game of the year, maybe, your depth chart's not going to look the way it looks in a preview magazine. And you've got to have bodies. You've got to be able to lose a guy or two and still be able to play at a high level, and Oregon is affording themselves that ability. I talked about Indiana earlier in the show. I don't know that we've spoken about them much, but man, I gotta give a little golf clap. We're indoors, so you got to give golf claps indoors. But Kurt Cignetti took the job at Indiana. And Kurt Cignetti has found a way to overturn a lot of Indiana really quickly. They've had 35 guys leave via the portal. They've had 30 guys come in via the portal. Do you understand, like, what percentage of your roster you just snapped your fingers and overturned? That doesn't guarantee you they'll win a single game this fall. But what it does guarantee is they'll look a lot different. And you hope for the better for any kind of new staff. You hope for the better. It's this totally new concept. Like, they just landed C.J. West. That was a defensive tackle at Kent State. D'Angelo Pons, he was a corner at James Madison. They just brought those guys in. This was not a situation where they're just chilling at home and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. Hey, can we come play for you? These were competitive recruitments, NIL recruitments or portal recruitments, whatever you want to call them. And I know that anytime this day and age, when guys land players out the portal, if you didn't land them, all you do is say, well, I mean, all you did is go buy them. Okay, well, if it's that easy, you go do it. All right, this is Indiana, by the way. We're not talking basketball either. So for Indiana football to be making any kind of move, it warrants mention on this show. That's all I'll say. Next up, I'm at Texas. Texas has made a move. Javion Cole was a corner from San Jose State, and they just brought him in. You know, they had a guy leave via the portal. They have him come in. Footwork and tackling. First two things that anybody who has watched him play talks about. He was at San Jose State, and that staff left, and now he's come here. He had 7 interceptions the past 2 seasons, and there's no starting spot guaranteed. You know, I've talked to people around here today, for instance, and they say, yeah, he's going to come in, and we expect him to compete for a starting job. My guess is he'll play a ton for Texas this fall, but I can assure you he's here for the right reasons. And it's just another really good football player that they can be selective with. At Texas, they don't have to operate out of desperation in that portal anymore. They did once upon a time, and the portal was not present like it is now when Sark first got here, which he'll talk about a little later in the show. But that's a big deal for Texas. And also, Miami, they added another one, man. Simeon Barrow, the defensive tackle from Michigan State, which is a theme. Defensive tackles leaving Michigan State. 6'3", 290, 3-year standout as a starter up there. Their 2024 defensive line class in recruiting had 6 blue chippers, but those are high school seniors essentially still. So they're not all ready to just be plug and play. So they needed a bridge body or two to get them to where that class could be plugged in on the 2 deep. And this is a really big move. It's the 5th portal edition for them. They still may not be done. They are totally all in on this season. The energy, the mentality that Miami has about their 2024 year is the same one Ohio State has. It's the same one Ole Miss has. It doesn't mean that we're going all in here and then whatever happens in the future happens in the future. They're building for the future, but they understand whether the public thinks it or not, we got a window to do something really big this year, and we will leave no stone unturned in trying to make sure that we jump right through that window. So, Portal still pumping out newsworthy items.